Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Please join me and my guest on this interview. Now, tensions are escalating on Ukraine's northern border as Belarus amasses significant military forces under the pretext of exercises. Belarusian troops, including special operation forces, tanks, artillery, and air defense systems, are concentrating near Gomel, just 30 kilometers from Ukraine. The presence of former Wagner PMC troops further complicates the situation, as Belarus, a close ally of Russia, increase the risk of potential conflict. Ukraine's foreign ministry has issued a stark warning to Belarus, emphasizing the severe consequences of any border violations. Joining us today on TVP World to discuss this critical development is Anatol Kotau of the Forum of Democratic Forces of Belarus. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. So, what do you believe is the real intention behind Belarus's military buildup near the Ukrainian border?
Actually, it's more about showing its loyalty to Russia, showing its loyalty to Putin, and that's all. Because even the Ukrainian side says that they do not see too much potential threat from Belarusian troops. Probably they can see potential threat only from some rocket launches and other such artillery systems which have been moved near to Ukrainian border, because nobody takes seriously Belarusian army as it is, but the rocket launches, artillery could be something that may add some threat for some time. I would say they can have a time for one or two launches because they have never participated in any real warfare, in any real war. So nobody knows how this will work out in reality. And the second issue here is that there are disputes who are really pressing the button in Belarus, whether it is Lukashenko or it's really Putin right now. So I guess the only two things could be potential threat for Ukraine in this situation. It's artillery and rocket launches, and uncertainty in issue of who is pressing the button.
All right, like you mentioned, not a lot of people take the Belarusian threat as serious as some of us make it out to be. And a lot of people are kind of looking at this as a boy who cried wolf situation, where Belarus do a lot of saber rattling around the border to kind of stir up tensions. But we do know how the story ends with the wolf actually coming. Do you think that's a reality, something that we do still have to stay vigilant about? Or do you think that maybe a little bit too much of focus and dedication is kind of resources are being devoted into trying to prevent that from happening?
I guess there is no such a situation. Actually, then there are too much resources paid in order to prevent something. It's better to prevent something than to fight consequences. And Ukraine in 2014 or moreover in 2022 has a clear answer for this question. So it's worth of paying attention, but not to overestimate the real threat which is coming from Belarusian side or Belarusian army. We should look on two things, on quantity and quality, and at the moment they both are poor. So 2 years ago or 3 years ago, before this full-scale war against Ukraine, there could be more potential threat from Belarusian army to any of Belarusian neighbors, but not now, because during these 2.5 years since the war against Ukraine, the second phase of this war has started. Each and every neighbor of Belarus has taken measures and is continuing to take these measures right now to enhance its security, to enhance its military power. So now it's just about some guests towards Russia that Belarus is still loyal, because when the Kursk operation by Ukrainian military forces began, there were plenty of voices inside Russia that it was Lukashenko who removed the troops from Ukrainian border and thus allowed Ukrainian army to invade Kursk. So now he tries to make something in order to prove that these voices are mistaken, first of all, and the second reason why he's behaving in such a way is that he is really doing something for Russia, and it's better to move these troops near to Ukrainian border than move them to Kursk region.
Right, so a lot of it is perhaps internal messaging to some capacity. But when it comes to the actual military ramifications, when it comes to this particular incident, we do know that the Belarusian air defense has actually been shooting down Shahed drones that's flying around. And do you think that actually signifies the fact that the involvement of Belarus would at least give the Kremlin some limited capacity in extending its tendrils and expand its range of, I wouldn't use influence, but at least defense?
I guess this was also an issue of some guests or some actions dedicated or addressed to external parties, and this time mainly for Ukraine and the Western world, to show that Lukashenko still has some autonomy, because of course nothing in the Belarusian airspace could not be shut down without clear decree or clear consent of Lukashenko. And this time he shows that he has still some autonomy, because it's obvious whose that drone was, because only Russia uses Shaheds in this warfare, despite of the direction it was flying. So this was a message to the West that Lukashenko is still has some autonomy, and still has, I would say, some room to maneuver and to show that there is some chance that he is not so loyal and is not so dependent on Russia than everybody thinks. So he is playing a very tricky and very dangerous game of balancing not to be involved in this war directly, not to send his troops neither to Ukraine, neither now to Kursk or Belgorod. And at the same time, he wants to show to the Western countries, to Ukraine, that he has some power and he is a right person to negotiate something, at least like with Ukraine, not crossing the border, so not crossing the red lines.
That's very interesting. Like you mentioned, it does seem like a lot of these military actions are more about sending a message than actually producing anything very substantial. And when it comes to messaging, we've also heard that there's a possible involvement of the Wagner PMC group near the Ukrainian border in this recent quote-unquote exercise. Do you think that's also an attempt at sending some sort of message? And if so, what might that message be?
I guess Wagner PMC is the most capable, actually, if we speak about warfare, part of troops which are located in Belarus right now. And for sure, it's also a message for both sides. If we speak about Kremlin, this message shows that Lukashenko is doing something to assist Russia, and he uses all the potential he has in his hands. And it's almost true, because Belarusian army is not capable of conducting any war. So he's taking all the best resources and moves them to nearer to Ukrainian border. On the other hand, this is a message for the Western countries and Ukraine that if something happens, probably he will call these incidents like third country flag operations, because he will try to blame Wagner, who are actually they are officially now abiding the decrees, some degrees of Belarusian side, but in fact they are still having some autonomy. So if something happens, so it's Wagner, or in fact it's Russia, who will be blamed of something.
Right, so it does sound like a lot of calculation is into this border situation. Perhaps not just as simple as a troops gathering, but a lot going on under the table. Thank you so much, meanwhile, for helping us breaking all that down and for your in-depth analysis. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on TVP World.
See you. Bye.
Cheers. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.